Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
Hello and welcome to Reggie'sTake.com podcast number 12. That was just a small clip from the new Star Wars Force Awakens trailer. Yes, I played at Disney. Come get me. Joining me once again, James.
Hello. How's it going?
All right. I'm sure you were like everyone else on the planet. You saw the trailer?
No, I haven't seen it yet, actually. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I saw it. Actually, Reggie and I just watched it again. But yeah, it's fantastic. It looks like a good movie. Really good movie. One of the things that strikes me the most about that movie is, of course there's CGI and everything, but it does not look like the prequels did. It looks closer to... The look of it looks closer to the originals than the prequels did.
Right.
It's using modern technology, of course, but it looks like they've got the feel of it right, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Your initial reaction to the trailer?
A lot of it hits you with a lot of nostalgia. The soft piano version of the Star Wars theme. It looks like a much darker entry, a kind of sad movie, a darker movie. Other than Han and Chewie, I don't really know. I guess they show a little bit of Luke, don't they? But only under a hood. But, I don't know any of these new characters, and I'm kind of excited about that.
Right.
Like we're going to see this new generation. I think it's interesting that we kind of have a new Darth Vader character as well. I know he's not Darth Vader. But...
Abrams and Lucasfilms come out saying, well, Kylo Ren, the character who's talking over Vader's melted helmet, they claim he's not supposed to be a Sith.
Okay.
But then again, they could just be trying to throw you a bone in the opposite direction.
Well, he's got a lightsaber and it's red.
I'm definitely hyped for it.
No.
Definitely really interested in where they go with it.
Now, you have some theories. I read your article.
Before I start going down that path.
Yeah, all right.
Was my theories viable?
Yeah. I had some theories for Age of Ultron, too, that they didn't use. I remember mine was Thor goes to hell, dies and goes to hell.
Right.
That would have been a great movie. I still liked Age of Ultron, but I think my movie would have been better, honestly. Age of Ultron's great. But anyway, I would say so. I'm going to let you say at least one of your theories is totally viable.
Now I've written this is technically the third time I've made mention to it in my stuff on my website. I'm still willing to bet the farm that Harrison Ford came back for this movie for one reason and one reason only.
I would say, well, go ahead and say it.
They came up and proposed, showed him the script, saying this is what we want to do. We'd like to have you back. And they're giving him what he wanted George to do in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
They're killing off his character.
And I would say that actually, I would say that that's definitely a more feasible. Mine was a little left field, but I think that's more feasible for Star Wars killing off Han Solo than killing off Thor would be for Avengers. But I do. I totally buy it.
Because of my first...
Yeah, he was supposed to die in Return of the Jedi.
Lucas never had any intention... According to him, according to George Lucas, he had no intention of killing off Han Solo. Harrison wanted that done because he thought...
What was the producer's name?
I don't remember. But anyway, Harrison thought it would make a more compelling story or hit it if Han would have died in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. I don't know. That's been, over almost 33 years since Return of the Jedi, but... My first thing I posted on this, and this was back, I actually posted this on May 4th, May the 4th be with you in 2014. I listed this whole long line of reasons what could possibly draw Harrison Ford back in to play Han Solo after, almost 3 decades of trying to stay away from that character as much as possible. I don't know if you ever saw him on interviews, but anytime anyone would ever ask him about Star Wars or anything of character Han Solo, he either looked like he got really kind of upset that the person asked him the question, or he pretty much skirted it very quickly and moved on.
Yeah.
I mean, he tried to stay away from that character as much as possible.
I don't think he really likes the movies all that much.
I don't know if he doesn't like the movies or necessarily like...
or doesn't like all the fan dribble.
I think he's appreciative of what it did for his career.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he realizes without Star Wars and those 3 movies, his career may not have taken off like it did. I mean, because if you look at the 3 main characters... from the original trilogy, I mean, his is the one that obviously shot beyond belief. I mean, you got Indiana Jones. I mean, he's done a lot of movies that's made a lot of money. And my original theory on this, why he would return is Is it because George Lucas is not not involved anymore? Well, if that was the case, he never would have done the fourth Indiana Jones movie because Lucas was involved with that. Is it the money? No, because Disney is going to pay him buku bucks regardless to get him to come. He's going to get his rewards. I think it's a logical conclusion that Han Solo is going to perish in The Force Awakens, and I think possibly Chewie goes as well now.
I think if that's not the case, I think at the very least, Harrison Ford, at the very least, what got him back on board to do this was probably the script. Right. I think the script might have been good enough to bring him back.
I think Abrams and Disney and Harrison all got what they wanted. Yeah. Harrison's getting his character killed off, so he no longer has to be asked, "Ooh, are you coming back for 8 and 9?" Because if he gets killed off in episode 7 here, he doesn't have to be ever asked that question if he's ever going to return to Star Wars again. Yeah. He can put that to bed. And Disney's getting what they want out of him by basically making him one of the major characters in the movie and help boost this new movie coming out to theaters with getting nostalgia back from the original trilogy and drawing in the new fans who may be a little jilted from the prequels. And I think everyone's getting what they want. It makes sense to me.
Okay, so going back, that producer, I had to look up his name, Gary Kurtz. He is worth reading about, maybe worth making a podcast for someday. I don't agree with him on everything. He was, but I do agree with him for the most part. He was the producer. He was one of the producers that really helped with Lucas during some of his early movies, and then helped with Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and then they kind of clashed during Raiders of the Lost Ark. Kind of disagree with him. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is fantastic. It's a great movie. He thought it was too action heavy, but not enough character development. I disagree. I see where he's coming from, but I do disagree. He is really, really interesting. He left during Return of the Jedi because a lot of the progress, he felt it was becoming too kid-friendly. He felt that it was, he definitely wanted Han Solo to die at the end. He was the one that, I think he was the one that might have proposed it before Harrison Ford did even. He did not like the Ewoks. So he left during that, and he felt like the script was just kind of cartoony. It's very interesting. It's worth reading about him. And he kind of, I don't want to say too much because, George Lucas is awesome, but he was the one that was he was not a yes man. Mm-hmm. Basically. Yeah, I think when George Lucas got more famous, more powerful, I think he wanted more yes people around him. Gary Kurtz, extremely interesting. He's worth reading about. But anyway, back to the new movie.
Yeah, because if you look at that one image I have on my latest one that you talked about in my theories, they show the Millennium Falcon going into a structure. Yeah. To me, there's only one person that's going to take that thing into a structure, and it's got to be Han. I don't see Chewie doing it. I could be wrong. Yeah. And as I've said before, if they are killing off Han, I'm okay with that, so long as it's a meaningful death to the story, to the franchise.
Now, here's where we get into trouble. When you wait too long to kill off a character. You're a Star Trek fan, aren't you?
Yes.
You know where I'm going with this?
Spock?
No, not Spock died in real life. Man, you don't know where I'm going. Captain Kirk in that one movie. He goes to the future, and it's one of those.
You're talking Star Trek Generations, where it was the first part of the movie started off with him and the Enterprise B and the launching, and he gets caught up in the Nexus, and then come to find you think he's dead.
It's a crossover movie, kind of.
Right. I don't think Lucas. I really don't see them doing something stupid like that.
No, I don't think so either. But that is kind of the worst case scenario, and doing a cheap death on a beloved character.
And Star Wars isn't known for quote time travel either. So
I'm just saying doing the death cheaply like they did with Captain Kirk.
I don't see that happening. I don't either. I say his death in that movie, if it does happen,
it's going to be very impactful.
It's going to be very impactful. It's going to be, you realize, somehow they saved the day, and the characters in that movie are going to be like, well, how did we win? And then it's going to be realized, oh crap, it was because of Han sacrificing himself that allowed us to win the battle. It could be an emotional Star Wars movie. No. You might get something as close to Empire Strikes Back as people have been wanting for a long time. Mm-hmm. Now the question is, if they start out with an Empire Strikes Back type of movie, impact on the fans that they really love, are they setting the bar too high for themselves moving forward?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of... It is a good question.
I mean, there's so much pressure I'm sure that Abrams is feeling, Lucasfilm is feeling, Disney is feeling with this movie coming out, of the prequels took such a bad rap and everyone's wanting this movie to be so perfect.
But I do think though, you're going to have to, if they kill him off, they're going to have to kill him off in the first one.
Right.
Because you have to close that chapter.
Right.
You have to close the chapter of the old movies and focus on these new characters for the next two movies. So I think that would be the only way that they could do it, if they do it. If they don't kill him off in the first movie, then they shouldn't do it at all.
I think that's the reason why he came back.
I think so, too.
Because if they Disney would have come to him and said, hey, we'd like for you to be back fully in 7 and then little cameos in 8 and 9, I think he would have said, no, thank you.
I think so, too.
I think he would have said, no, thank you. He's been trying to put Star Wars behind him for so long. I think this is his one way. It's like, okay, I'll swallow my pride. I'll do the movie. Then I can just move on and, be done with it. Yeah. I really think that's what's going to happen. And I think the reason why you're not seeing a lot of Luke, because I really think you're going to see more Luke in Episode 8.
Probably.
I think of the 3 main original characters they brought back. I think the only one you're really going to see is Luke in Episode 8. I think.
And let's not forget in the old Star Wars, the death was in the first movie,
right?
With Obi-Wan,
right? Because I think Luke's gonna be around to help train whoever a new set of Jedi. I mean, someone's got to be, whether it's John Boyega's character, the stormtrooper guy, whether he's a Jedi or if it's Daisy, what's her face's character, Rey. Someone's got to be, there's got to be that clash of good and evil. And I like the fact, if you listen to Han Solo there during the thing, it sounds like after 30 years, people are now 30 years later, it's like it's just rumors of the dark side and the Jedi. And it sounds like people are forgotten. And
if you think about it, it makes sense though, because during if this is 30 years after the Rebel Alliance, the only Jedis around there were Luke, Darth Vader, and
Palpatine. Well,
and Palpatine, and Yoda and Obi-Wan. So there's like 5. No one really knew they exist.
Because
Darth Vader was a Dark Knight, essentially. No one really knew that much.
Yeah.
I'm sure... I'm probably reading into this too much, but I'm sure they kind of kept his powers a little bit secret because they wanted to display the Death Star or whatever, its power.
So, because in the original trilogy, people still knew of the Jedi.
Yeah. So, this is going on 50, 60 years later.
So, and then 30 years after Return of the Jedi, now it's like, because Luke has supposedly been in hiding all this time since sometime after Return of the Jedi, that it's just now become kind of like, ooh, it's a myth.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go with it.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked to watch this movie. I still feel like a kid. I was lucky enough to see the original 3 when they came out.
Oh, wow.
So maybe I'm dating my age, but...
You are. All 3 of them came out before I was born.
So
I think, when did the third one come out in
83? Yes.
Yeah, it did too. That's the year I was born.
I saw all 3 of them originally. So for me, this is... Seeing the original 3 characters come back for this movie is just like...
Yeah, I bet.
It's like going to get to see your favorite singer on a concert you've never gotten seen, and it's been 20 years and you've always wanted to see him or her or whatever, and you finally get to. It's just like, you're just all giddy as a schoolgirl, so to speak.
Did you read any of the books? Because I really didn't, honestly. I never did.
I've read some of the books.
Yeah.
I haven't read all the books. No, I do have about a collection of about 35 books back there where I keep them. I know of what they wrote between at one time when all those were kind of thought to be considered part of the whole mythology of it. But
so let me ask you, so you didn't really read enough, so you probably don't have an emotional investment. What about, for people who read all the books and with the movies, they're not canon anymore? I kind of feel like it's like, whatever, like just enjoy the books for what they are.
Yeah, read the books, enjoy them. To me, the books there were a way of getting your Star Wars fix when there was no Star Wars movies out.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you got introduced to newer characters, which were kind of fun. So, the Zahn trilogy, which were the first really books to be put out.
And those are, what is that again? I've always heard that.
The Heir to Empire trilogy.
Okay.
It's, Heir to Empire, I don't remember all the names of the books, but they introduced a character that had taken over the Empire called Grand Grand Admiral Thrawn, and everyone is like, ooh, when Disney announced they were going to do movies, they were like, ooh, let's do that trilogy, It was really hard to pull that one off because that is technically only set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and you got characters now that are 30 years older, so it would have been really hard to pull that one off.
And also, I think it's kind of a better idea to just wipe the slate clean and just do something new.
It may have upset some of the hardcore fans, but just to say, other than the movies, the Clone Wars anime series, the Star Wars Rebels that are now airing, and say everything else is not canon, these are the only things that are considered canon moving forward, I think was a smart idea, because now you give all these writers a clean slate.
Exactly.
They can come up and do whatever it is they want to do. Because if you really try and make a movie out of one of those books, people who read those books are going to be picking at that movie so much.
Right.
Oh, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. Oh, that was not in that book, So I think that's probably just best.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like DC Comics. I'm surprised Marvel doesn't, but DC Comics does that all the time where they wipe the slate clean. Maybe they do it too much these days, but, I don't even think George Lucas's canonical grading system is even canon anymore. But he used to have it as canon was the movies, and then there was A canon, which was the show, the cartoon. And then they had like B canon, which was like the current comics, but then like the old Marvel comics were like D canon. They don't really exist.
No.
It was so like literally set up what is canon and what is not. And what's funny is like the holiday special actually winds up being like B canon because it has that Boba Fett cartoon.
Disney and Lucasfilm they've put out like 6 books in the last since Disney's taken over, and these new books that are coming out are canon in a certain sense within the timeline.
Well, it's a huge galaxy. We can have lots of stories. Right. I mean, there's more than 3 people that live in the galaxy.
Right. But the newer books that they are putting out are kind of more considered because they're trying to set up to get you now between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. So some of these newer books are kind of being considered canon.
And some of the video games have some canonical value too. Like I think The Force Awakens it probably doesn't anymore, but I think The Force Awakens used to be canonical.
I know that,
but it's only like at a B level.
But I know that a new game comes out in November or whatever it is.
Gosh, it looks good.
Star Wars Battlefront. That looks really fun.
I think it's kind of an updated version of.
I think it kind of skips
PS2.
I think it skips around a lot of stuff. I don't know if it's really telling anything, but it looks fun to.
I don't think it's necessarily a story game. I think what it is it's an upgraded version of Star Wars. It was I forget what it's called, but it was a really fun game on the PlayStation 2. And it's pretty much just battles. You can be rebels, you can be the
Dark
Empire,
side. Yeah.
And I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
It's just an updated version of that, which is great because that game was awesome, and I would love to play an HD version of that.
What do you think? I think this was announced since the last time we did a podcast, but Colin Trevor, who did Jurassic World, has agreed to do Episode 9.
Really?
The third movie in the Star Wars trilogy.
Can I be honest with you? I didn't like Jurassic World, at all. I need to see it sober, but I was.
I like Jurassic World. Jurassic World was. I look at those Jurassic Park movies like I look at some of the other movies in the kind of in the same category. They're not necessarily there to make you think. They're not there to be some critically acclaimed storyline movie like The Godfather.
Right.
It's one of those movies. It's there to entertain. Give you a good 2 hours to forget what the hell's going on in your life. To me, Jurassic World was one of those fun movies just to go watch and enjoy yourself.
I guess Jurassic Park for me was probably in some ways probably what Star Wars was for you. Like the first big movie that I saw in theaters. It wasn't like some goofy cartoon or some crappy kids movie. And
right.
I read the book. I read the Michael Crichton book after the movie. So I read the book when I was 9, full of cuss words and gore, which was awesome. But I don't really want to say that was was my Star Wars, because my Star Wars was also Star Wars. I just didn't see it in theaters until they did the remastered versions. Jurassic Park, the sequels came, and none of them were that good. I think Jurassic World might be one of the better sequels out of the three, but I don't think it's a bad movie. But I thought it was interesting. There was not a moment of that movie where that was even slightly scary. Did you notice that? The first Jurassic Park
made you
had the kitchen scene, had the scene where the T-Rex comes out of his breaks through the fence is pretty scary.
Right.
And the kitchen scene with the Velociraptors, same thing. I mean, it's pretty intense
because you put the kids in danger. Yeah.
And then this new one didn't have any scary scenes, which is fine, but it also didn't have a whole lot of scenes of just like, wow, look at the freaking dinosaurs, like that's wonderful and majestic. Because even the old ones didn't have that. But it's like, so what is this movie? Am I just gonna watch is the T-Rex gonna come out and beat this new guy? Yes, he is. There we go.
That's just my opinion on something like Jurassic
Well,
World.
and that movie is insanely popular. I mean, I'm not.
That was
I'm not dogging your opinion by any means. That people love that movie.
That movie, Universal hit the jackpot with that movie.
They did. I think, like I said, I need to see it sober. I just need to, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I was pretty drunk when I saw it. But, I was mad. It was 4th of July, and we had a barbecue, and then we went to go see the movie. Of course, at the movie theater, they have the bar there, so we kept the holiday spirits going before the movie started. And I was like, this movie's like a sci-fi movie. Throwing bottles. No, I wasn't throwing any bottles around.
Well,
but I will say, though, if he's directing, I think he's a decent director.
I think Disney's done fairly well because they
and they know he makes a lot of money.
Right.
So
I mean, they've gotten Garth Edwards to do the second one, which is currently starting to film. They've gotten him. They've gone after young, up and coming directors that are trying to prove themselves, and I think it may or may not be good for the franchise. I mean, everyone's going to have a different take on and look at it, but the story is still going to be. So the story I'm not worried about, but I think each director, because someone, and this was funny, I read on one of these websites of well, why use all three different directors? It's not going to be good or consistent. And someone pointed out online, it's like the original three were directed by three different, Lucas, and then the guy who did Empire.
Yeah, I don't remember their names. Not the guy who did Empire. I don't remember his name. He was Kirshner. That's right. He was actually more of an artistic.
Lucas talked him into it.
Yes, Lucas was I don't know if he was a student of his, but he was certainly a student of his work.
Right.
And then, do you know what movie he did years later, though?
Well, I know he
RoboCop 2.
Well, you know the other movie he did that came out same year as Return of the Jedi? He did the Sean Connery, James Bond, Never Say Never.
Oh, that's right. Never Say Never.
The one that came out in '83, the same year that Octopussy came out.
Yeah, that one's not very good either. But neither is Octopussy. Both of those.
Well, the only reason why I say that because that's technically the only year where two Bond movies have come out in the same year.
That'll never happen again.
That's minor little trivia question. Yeah. Answer to a trivia question.
Yep. It'll never happen again.
I was going to try and stay away from the comic book movies this podcast, but I do want to bring up one thing about the comic book movies.
Well, going back real quick. Most of those movies use different directors, too.
Oh, yeah.
Usually when you bring the director back, it doesn't work out as well. Iron Man 2 wasn't quite as good as Iron Man 1.
Right.
Avengers 2, I think, was really good, but it wasn't quite as good as the first one. I think it's because the second time they come, they have all that pressure now. And
right.
They kind of put in too much. Like both movies do that, where they put in just too much.
There's a new report coming out that claims that Batman vs. Superman, the time it hits theaters, will have cost Warner Brothers $410 million.
Oh my gosh.
In production cost.
Oh my gosh.
Making it one of the most expensive movies ever made.
They better make their money's worth.
And
Zack Snyder might have to find a new job.
The guy who wrote the article said that, okay, that's all fine and dandy, and if it makes $1 billion worldwide like it should, then Warner Brothers probably won't have any issues with the cost. But if it tanks, it was funny because what does that do for the rest of their movies?
Well, and it probably won't tank, but it doesn't need to tank. If it just does well, That's not good enough,
right?
To make that
because
kind of money.
Then they're going to be in that Amazing Spider-Man 2 syndrome, where technically it made tons of money, but Sony considered it a kind of a financial flop.
Yeah.
So you get into that realm of. I just found it interesting that movie's going to cost them $410 million before it even hits theaters.
Unbelievable.
And it's like, wow. There's also another one that Marvel could end up spending $500 million each on the Infinity Wars by the time those are made, because of all the characters that you're going to have involved. A good chunk of that is going to be paying the actors salary for the actors, because you're going to be trying to draw in all these different characters into these two movies at some point. I think these big tentpole movies like Infinity Wars and then the Justice League movies are going to be the telling signs of how long the comic book movies go on for.
I agree.
Because if all these movies end up costing them close to $500 million and they all consider them financially successful in getting their money back, then they're going to continue to make them. Where if they take a big loss, it's only going to take one big loss for all of a sudden these companies to all of a sudden redo their schedule and pull back.
Well, Marvel's done pretty well so far. I think pretty much all that. Like Ant-Man was a huge success, which is unbelievable.
Yes, but at some point though, it's
going to fall.
You're playing Jenga with these movies financially, and as sooner or later, one movie is going to sit there and be pulled out of the wrong slot, and it's just going to tip it over.
I'm more worried about DC.
I think DC's got more pressure right now, especially with the Batman versus Superman movie.
I'm going to say it. I'm sure I've said it before. I don't think Zack Snyder is very good. like I really don't, and I think he's insane, and not like the good kind of insane. Did you hear about this is pretty funny. Did you earlier Zack Snyder said, well, DC's got like American icons like Batman and Superman. We're not doing flavors of the week like Ant-Man, which is like, oh, screw you, dude.
Who cares?
Well, apparently the actor who plays the Winter Soldier rebutted that and was like, yeah, well, at least we're not making a at least we're not making a knockoff of a better Nolan movie. And it's like, man, that is 100% true.
Some of these DC execs or actors or whoever's putting these remarks out that DC's going to be better, it's like
they need to watch it.
It's like, let the movie speak for itself first before you start.
And so far it hasn't. Like, they only have one. Well, they've attempted they attempted Green Lantern and have written it out. I'm still counting it because I'm sorry, Green Lantern was supposed to kick off their little universe. So it's Green Lantern, which they had to retroactively delete from the universe because it did so bad, and Man of Steel, which is like okay, but it's certainly a controversial movie. They haven't like hit the nail on the head yet.
If
they're putting all this crap out, they're like scrambling to put all this crap out, and we don't even know how successful that's going to be yet.
Now, if DC had already had Batman, Superman out, the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, maybe the first Justice League movie out, and they were all financially successful in the better grounded reality that they're claiming, other than Marvel, then I might be able to understand some of their talk. But at this point, you got one movie in your franchise.
I don't think it's better grounded reality based on Man of Steel. That movie was weird.
But I'm just going off what they say. Yeah. But if all these movies had already been out and done financially well, like Marvel's, then I can maybe see the talk of butting heads. But right now, DC people fans need to hold your tongue, wait for the movie to come out, see what happens before you start with egg on your face.
Because so far, and by the way, I am a DC fan. And I am a Superman fan.
Oh, my favorite superhero character of all time, regardless of Marvel or DC, is Batman.
Batman is kind of the best. But, I love Superman, and, and I know, like, I don't know how many times I'm going to repeat that on the show, but I'm not 100% with this movie, like, with Man of Steel. Like, it just didn't quite feel right to me. It's not a bad movie, but it didn't quite feel right, and I don't think they're going to... I think they could head it in the right direction, but I don't think they're going to.
Well, we're going to move on from the comic books because I'm sure as next March comes along, that's just going to become a bigger topic as it is. Yeah. Let's move on to a different franchise, Back to the Future.
All right. Hey, today is the day that Marty McFly landed in the future in part 2.
In 2015, yes. It's October 21st, the day that we recorded this. What do you think of the Back to the Future franchise? Still hold up for you?
Oh, the first one I think is one of the best movies movies ever made.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest with you, I never really liked the sequels when I was a kid.
The sequels...
I would watch them occasionally. I didn't watch... It's probably been about 10 years since I've seen part 3 and about 5 since I've seen part 2.
It took me a while to get... When I first saw Back to the Future Part 2, it took me like twice to watch that movie to figure out everything that was going on. And then it all made sense to me.
Part 2 isn't bad. And it's not a bad movie.
3's okay, but to me 3's the weakest of the bunch.
3's too goofy. Like, it just doesn't feel right.
And I've always wondered what Back to the Future Part 2 and 3 would have been like if they could have gotten Crispin Glover to come back. And the reason why he's not in any of those two movies is because he wanted more money than what Michael J. Fox was being paid for. And obviously that's not going to happen. So when they couldn't come to an agreement with him, they said, fine, we'll just do it without you. And of course, the movies reflect that because they had someone else play his character for what little you quote see George. But you kind of wonder what 2 and 3 might have been like if they could have gotten Crispin Glover fully into the movie. Because you really have to think, if you watch the first one, he's really kind of like the third wheel. He's, you got Doc, you got Marty, and then there's George. George and Biff. We're kind of really the 4 key characters in the first one. And Biff was a big character in the second and third ones as well. So you wonder what those movies would have been like if Crispin Glover would have taken the salary he should have taken and just done those movies. You wonder if they still would have gone to the Old West in the third one or not. You kind of have to wonder what those stories might have been like.
I also kind of feel like, now, Back to the Future, that's one of those movies that really, I might be wrong, but it really wasn't, when it was made, wasn't meant for a sequel, right?
Robert Zemeckis did not intend...
Okay, that's what I thought.
He was not thinking sequel when he made it. Yeah. And the to be continued at the end was really kind of put there as a joke.
Yeah.
But it did so well, and they got so much pressure. Ooh, when are you going to do a second? When are you going to do a second one? That's why it took 5 years before you saw the second one, because they're trying to figure out, well, if we do a second one, what are we going to do? Which makes sense.
And they made 2 and 3 at the same time.
Right. They filmed them back to back. Yeah. I think there was like a month in between setups, but still, they pretty much all did them at once. Yeah.
I think, even though I didn't care for the sequels as much, I think they're still decent movies.
And they all pretty much interconnect.
Yeah.
I kind of like those Back to the Future movies. You have to think about it. It'd be kind of cool in a certain sense to experience that, because Marty basically experiences an entire week in 1955, comes back to the same day he left in 85, ends up into 2015, and then back to 1955 again, and then ends up spending a week within that same day. Ends up basically spending a week in the Old West.
No.
So in one day of everyone else's life around him, he spends 2 weeks in 2 different completely time periods.
4 different time periods.
Because the alternate 1985.
But, it's interesting, like I think the movies, when you look at them as a trilogy, it's supposed to be about this big Americana type thing, go back to the 50s. Oh, now I'm back to the 80s. Now I'm in the Old West. Ooh, the scary future. It's like this this whole all American kind of time frame. Of course, to some extent, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Back to the Future is one of those franchise movies that you see it on TV. It's kind of hard not to stop and watch it for a little
totally.
bit. Kind of like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, any of those type of big franchise movies.
Yeah.
It's just hard, oh, hey, I haven't seen this in a while. And then next thing you know, you find yourself, you've watched the whole entire thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first
happy Back to the Future Day, everyone. There will never be a day like this again.
And that leads me to my next kind of, well, it doesn't really lead me, but it propels me to get there. Hollywood is brilliant, wouldn't you think?
I guess.
I say that sarcastically, actually.
Okay.
I showed you the list of all the Hollywood movies that they're wanting to remake, and it's just astonishing me how non-creative Hollywood has gotten.
I am going to say Hollywood has always, since the silent era, Hollywood has always done remakes, now we're going to remake this movie, but it's a talkie. And then a few years later, now we're going to remake it with color. So they've always done remakes. However, some of these movies don't need to be remade at all.
No.
Jumanji, like who cares about Jumanji? The Fugitive's been remade several times because that started off as a TV show. Nightmare on Elm Street. Don't do it. Okay, stop with the horror movie remakes. Yeah. That movie's already been remade. No one watched it.
Yeah.
But the funniest one, Police Academy, geez. The funniest one on here, though, has got to be Roadhouse.
Well, you do hear who's trying to get the lead role in that movie, don't you?
No. Who?
Ronda Rousey, the fighter.
Yeah.
She's lobbying hard to play the lead
Gosh
role.
darn it. I could actually see that kind of working, but don't call it Roadhouse. I could see that kind of working. Here's the thing about Roadhouse. Roadhouse is one of my favorite movies. I'm not going to lie. Like, I watch that movie all the time. I really like it and quote it a lot. It is not a good movie. I don't even like it ironically. You know how some people like movies ironically? I genuinely like it, but I understand it's not a good movie. Like, it's pretty stupid. Like, it's a crappy redneck action movie. It's like the redneck version of like A Fistful of Dollars or Yojimbo or Romeo and Juliet or whatever. You know, you've got the arguing bar owners instead of the arguing families.
The ones that really bothered me on this list was Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I don't like that. That movie should not be remade.
Escape from New York.
Yeah, any of these John Carpenter movies should not be remade.
Magnificent Seven. The Mummy. Let's see. Men in Black.
Now, here's my question with The Mummy. Are they remaking the original or are they remaking the 90s remake?
I believe that they're going to try and remake the original.
Oh,
but still,
yeah, that's right. Because Universal was trying to do that,
and
the Universal universe, and Dracula bombed.
Right, but they're still going to try and redo the Mummy.
They need to stop trying to do these universes. Marvel did it right. You guys are not doing it right. So just stop.
Sony still is going to move forward with basically rebooting Men in Black because they said they're going to move forward without Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones.
Why?
That's what I don't get. I don't understand why they want to remake this.
Well, I do understand.
And there's one
because it's a Marvel.
Well, here's the worst part about it is they want to try and tie it into the 21 Jump Street movie series. Oh, God. And bring those two idiots into it as well. That's what really pisses me off.
So they're trying to make a 21 Jump Street universe.
Shared universe with Men in Black. Tell me what's wrong with that picture.
Well, I'll tell you why they're at least trying to hold on to the rights, because it's actually a Marvel property, which is still hard for me to wrap my head around that's an actual property, because Men in Black has always been like what you call, like, anyone who's like any sort of like alien mythology, Men in Black has been in it. But Marvel had a comic called Men in Black. Sony made a movie using those rights. Didn't follow it at all. So it's like, why even buy the rights? I don't think Marvel honestly has a copyright on the words Men in Black. That's like saying Marvel has a copyright on the word alien, because, you know, like, but anyway, whatever.
Yeah, it's just Predator.
There was a Predator.
Like, I mean, come on. They've tried.
Are they going to remake it, or are they going to just have a sequel?
It sounds like, from what I read, one of the last things I ever read about it was they were going to try and use the original characters from their first movie again, but which doesn't make no sense.
They're all dead.
Yeah,
none of them got to T'Challa.
I mean, Weird Science. Wanting to redo that one.
Jeez.
To me, that's one of those ones that should just be left alone. I mean, just for nothing else, you're never going to top Kelly LeBrock. I'm sorry.
No.
But I just find it amazingly baffling why they keep...
Scarface is on that list. However, Scarface was a remake. The 80s version of Scarface was a remake. That was. There was I think it was a 40s movie. It might have been 50s. But instead of about Cubans or whatever, it was about like Italians or something. Mm-hmm. I could actually see them remaking Scarface, because it's going to be, only this time it's going to be about probably Mexicans. It's always about whatever immigrant is scaring Americans. I could kind of see that one.
They even got a Hitchcock movie on here, The Birds. Why'd you want to remake a Hitchcock movie?
Didn't M. Night Shyamalan already do that and call it Signs? Boom. Dang. That movie's a total ripoff. Do you remember the scene where they're all like hiding and you hear the aliens scratching on the attic, and it's like, no, that's what birds do. That's what they did in the movie Birds. Why would aliens just scratch? Like, wouldn't they like just blow it down with a gun or something?
Yeah.
That movie sucks.
Now, there's really only... Oh, and they also want to redo Gremlins, which I just have issues with. There's only one movie on here that I could stand maybe to see remade, and that's Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
That one I'd be okay with.
Well, the original wasn't
that great.
I mean, the soundtrack was great. The Queen soundtrack.
I mean, the original Flash Gordon movie is kind of becoming more of a kind of a cult iconic type of a movie anymore.
Yeah, just because it was
so bad.
I like it.
But to see an updated version might be all right if they do it right. But of this list, it's just like
I said, I could see them remaking Scarface for that reason. However, the problem is the 80s one, no one remembers the original one. The 80s one is so iconic that like everyone has that poster. Everyone from the age of 18 to 24 has that poster in their room if you're male, like you do. Everyone quotes "Say hello to my little friend." Like, I just don't think that would be a good idea. Like I get the idea behind it is to just keep making it to show whatever immigrants are scaring white Americans at this point. I just don't. I think the last one was just so iconic, it's not worth it. Oh, here's one we didn't mention. Ace Ventura. Why would you remake Ace Ventura?
Well, see, there's one movie on here that's not listed on here, and that's because it's already been made and it's coming out later this year, and that's Point Break.
Oh, yeah.
Why
would you remake that? It's just a cop movie.
Yeah, so that comes out. That comes out in December.
Who's sitting around thinking, gosh, you know what I really need right now? I really need an updated version of Point Break. I want to see somebody running around in an Obama mask. I need new surfers. Instead of Anthony Kiedis as a bad guy, I want the guy from Modest Mouse. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Like that just doesn't even make sense.
So they can show Obama mask, George Bush, and Bill Clinton masks then?
Yeah. Well, see, I also see you have more Universal films. Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Wolfman. So they're really trying to do this.
Universal is still pushing for this.
They blew
thing.
it. They blew it with Dracula. No one saw it.
I think they're kind of doing the DC thing. Okay, Dracula, it sucked. We're going to throw it out the window. We're going to try again.
Starship Troopers. That is a fantastic movie.
The first one's fine. The other ones kind of came out kind of straight to video, didn't they?
I didn't know there were sequels.
I think there's like 2 or 3 sequels, but they're all kind of made straight to video type of things.
I wanted to bring it up because I'm actually reading the book right now.
Uh-huh.
The book is so much fun. It was written in the 50s, and see, what's his name, Paul Verhoeven, when he directed the movie, he took it. When he read the book, he found the book to be very fascist. Paul Verhoeven, of course, was from Europe when they had kind of a problem with fascists. I don't know if you remember that, but back in the 30s and 40s, Europe had kind of a problem with fascists. I don't know. But so he read the book.
Europe had a lot of problems from about 1914 to 1945.
But he read the book, and he didn't like it because he felt that it was too militaristic and too fascist. So when he made the movie, he made it even more so to the point where it was a parody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that movie is so over the top with it. I'm reading the book right now, and it is a little fascist. But I think the thing is, it was written by a military guy who just wanted to write a book about space marines. He just wanted to do Halo 50 years before Halo came out. And I don't think that was necessarily his intention. He's just writing what he knows. But it does have some parts where you kind of raise an eyebrow like, I don't know if I agree with what you're saying there. That said, it's a really fun book. Like, his writing is really funny. Mm-hmm. I just really enjoy it. Anyway, I'm getting off. They're redoing the Wild Bunch, so they're trying to. And what was the other one?
The Magnificent Seven.
Are they trying to bring westerns back?
I don't know. And the what is it? The Seven Samurai? Is that on there somewhere? I think I read.
Is it really? Because they're remaking the remake and the original remake.
Because I thought. Magnificent Seven was kind of a remake.
It was a remake
of the
Seven Samurai.
Yeah, the Seven Samurai. So I always found that kind of interesting. Of why would you want to do both?
I also see Tomb Raiders on here. I'm going to say something. First off, they've never made a good video game movie. You could make a good Tomb Raider movie. The old ones with Angelina Jolie were not good.
I like the first one better than I did the second one.
Yeah. They're not good. They're like throwaway, crappy early 2000s CGI movies that just suck. Like, I mean, they're not the worst things in the world, but they're not good. You could make a good Tomb Raider movie. I would say, though, like, if that's what they're trying to do, why not just make an Uncharted movie? Uncharted's kind of taken over Tomb Raider. Raider. Like, might as well do that. Or maybe they are making one. I don't know. Yeah, they've really never made a good a good video game movie. I think they could with Uncharted because the stories, right? It's just an action movie. It's just like a modern day Indiana Jones. They could have with Tomb Raider because it's the same thing, but they didn't.
Right.
There's not much to it. You could easily do that.
I just find it kind of funny that, it's just you got this list of movies. It's like it's comic book movies.
The Naked Gun? Why are they remaking that?
I have no idea.
Jeez, is it still going to be, oh my gosh, what's his name? Airplane and all those other movies. What's his name?
Are you talking about the director or the actor?
The director. Oh my gosh. He did like all those movies.
I doubt that director, though, would still be able to anyway.
He's still making stuff.
Is he?
Yeah. What is his name? It's, I wonder if O.J. Simpson's going to be back in this movie. Oh no, this movie was David Sucker. Yeah, he could totally do this.
Yeah.
What else is on here? Yeah, I don't like the idea of them redoing, because I think John Carpenter was a master of his time. It's not like movies should never be remade, but they don't.
Well, here's the funny thing about
The Thing was a remake, but it was with good intentions. It was to make something, take an old idea and make something.
Well, with
they don't do that with these remakes.
With Escape from New York, John Carpenter's agreed to be a story consultant and producer of that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be okay, but Sister Act, why would you remake? That movie sucks. Why would you remake Sister Act? Highlander? They should remake Highlander 2, The Quickening. Highlander 2, The Quickening might be the worst sequel ever made. It is, when you're talking about sequels where, like, the director never saw the original, just cash grabs like that is a bad movie.
Well, didn't they do 3 Highlander movies?
I think so. I think they did like 10 of them, and like most of them went straight to DVD. But
because I think I'm only aware of 3 of them.
I always felt like that first Wolverine Origins movie that was so bad. I always felt like that would have been an easy movie to make. Just rip off Highlander. Yeah, it would have been. It's like Wolverine's got to do this stuff, and then it has a flashback of him in the Civil War or something. Like, how hard would that have been?
Yeah,
not very. Let's see what else is in Police Academy. Pete's Dragon.
Yeah, that's already in
CGI dragon, I bet.
Yeah, that's already in progress, I believe, though.
Pet Cemetery. I like the original Pet Cemetery. It's not like a great movie, but every Halloween I watch it. Kid slices that guy's Achilles tendon with the scalpel. That's a good scene.
It'll definitely make for an interesting write-up, or at least 2 or 3 different write-ups as they come along. I don't know. I'm kind of getting tired of every time I turn around. It's like, ooh, Hollywood. Ooh, yeah. we're going to remake this. We're going to reboot this. Yeah. It's just like,
that's how I felt. Even
give me something new and original.
That's how I felt even with like Ben Affleck Batman. It's like, and he looks good. Don't get me wrong, but I was just like, I know Batman is one of those things. That's one of those all-American pop culture icons where we're gonna remake it all the time. But can you give us a few years off? Like those Nolan movies were so good, like,
right? And the last one just came out in 2012.
Yeah, like that's not. Holy cow, that's not even. Man, they're jumping on this faster than Sony did with Spider-Man, because that's not even.
Well, the time it comes out will be barely 4 years.
Spider-Man was 5 years, and technically, if they were starting their new universe, that was exactly 1 year later when Man of Steel came out. I mean, I guess like you don't want to sit on it too long, but at the same time, like.
Last thing, the new James Bond movie comes out here.
It looks fantastic.
Pretty
Spectre.
soon. Yeah, Spectre. I read it. I don't know if you saw what I posted, but there was Daniel Craig did an interview with some London website, magazine type thing, and he basically, they asked him, you want to do another Bond or whatever, and he's pretty much like, I don't give a fuck type of thing. I know he's technically still signed to do one more movie, I believe, but it sounds like he's done with it.
I'm sure.
And it could be the whoever interviewed him at the wrong time. He's just gotten done with it all. Now he's trying to do all the promotion stuff with it. Ask him that question a year from now, he might have a different tune. I like him as a James Bond. I think he's probably, other than Sean Connery, probably the best Bond character they've had in a long time. And Spectre does look awesome. I like him as Bond. They also asked him who he'd like to see play Bond, and he's like, he doesn't care, but his one thing was, whoever does decide to play Bond, if you're going to do it, you got to make sure you're willing to go in at it full-heartedly. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of, because he said Bond, basically, once you accept the role of Bond, it takes over your life.
Yeah.
Because it's such an iconic character, such an iconic role, and such a beloved film franchise that it's like probably stepping into a Star Wars movie. It's going to change your life.
Yeah.
And it's going to, everywhere you go, you're going to get dogged about it. So I don't know. Is there any actors out there that you'd like to see play Bond if say Spectre is Daniel Craig's last one?
Not offhand. I always feel not really, not that I know of. I know a lot of people have been throwing Idris around.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I think he might be too old by the time that happens, though,
Yeah.
wouldn't he? Because he's already in his 40s, right?
Something like that.
I mean, I guess so is Daniel Craig. I don't see that happening. I think he's too old.
Let's say, Spectre is Daniel Craig's last Bond movie, but I hope they just continue along the same storyline and not try and reboot him again. I think they're in a good spot now if they can continue on with the storylines with what they're doing. I think you could plug in a different actor, and I think people would, if it's a good Bond movie, people will see it.
Well,
Because that's what they did pretty much there for a long time with
I was about to say
Sean Connery and Roger
Yeah.
Moore. It's basically kind of all whatever. They never really rebooted it. It's just they plugged Roger Moore in to...
But it gets weirder as time goes
right,
on.
but-
Like, it really does. It's
but,
like, how old is he now?
but you didn't really get you kind of got a soft reboot
I think
with it.
Pierce Brosnan
with
was a reboot. Yeah, I guess soft reboot.
Kind of a soft reboot. They kind of he still existed, but Daniel Craig's Bond was a complete, in my book,
I
a complete
believe so,
full
too.
reboot with the franchise, which was fine.
And I think Skyfall even proves it by bringing in Moneypenny.
Yeah.
By him meeting Moneypenny.
That's why I say if this would happen to be his last movie, just continue on with the storyline they're continuing on. Bring back the same, M and Moneypenny. Bring back those same... Because I actually kind of like what they did with the Q character in Skyfall. And it sounds like...
I do too.
It sounds like he's more involved with Bond this time around, helping him out, which I kind of think is kind of a cool thing. Instead of just having him be a 5-minute little last segment with all the little gadgets you're probably going to see later on in the movie for him escaping, he's become an integral part of how he does his work.
It's weird because I've read most of the books. I haven't read them all. I kind of think once England comes up with a franchise, they just don't ever let it go. Like there's James Bond and Doctor Who, and they're like, we'll never let this go, and we'll just keep remaking these over and over. We'll just keep them going forever. I don't know. I guess I really haven't thought about it yet. I've kind of skimmed over. I saw that he might be quitting after this one or the next one. And I mean, realistically, the first one came out in 2006. I mean, this is going on 10 years now.
Right.
There was a lot of time in between.
2006, and then Quantum of Solace was 2008. Then there was another legal issue, and then Skyfall didn't come out until 2012.
Yeah.
And then this one was 2015. They wanted to do, I think, one in 2014, but Craig talked him into, it's like, yeah, I'll do another one, but I want a little bit more in between time. So I think instead of seeing Bond movies like we used to in the day of every 2 years, I think it's going to kind of start coming every 3 years.
Yeah,
would be more realistic. And for the actor, you don't want to get tied up in.
Well,
in
it's
Bond
not
constantly.
it's not like the Roger Moore days where you could just kind of like run around and kind of BS your way through it. Like, I mean, yes, of course they have stunt doubles, but like these actors.
They've also
are pretty like they're doing a lot of crazy stuff,
and it seems like with every production now of the Bond movies, they seem to keep upping their game. So I'm sure the production and the filming just keeps getting longer and longer with these movies. So I'm sure the Roger Moore ones didn't take that long because you saw some action sequences, but you didn't see a lot of like you get with Skyfall and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So Bond franchise is just one of those franchises. You see a new movie come out, it's like, ooh, cool. Yeah. You can't wait for it to come out. So
it's nice that we're getting Spectre back as a villainous organization.
Yeah, there's still a little kind of cloud of who Christoph Waltz's character really
they haven't
is.
Said right. I could see them making him Blofeld, but
I've heard rumors it could be. I've heard rumors that it might be Bond has a brother. That's who it is, or it's Blofeld. But they're keeping this one pretty close under the wraps.
No,
I mean I'll definitely go see it because when I saw Skyfall, I thought that was just. I walked out of that theater going, oh hell yeah! But I thought Casino Royale was pretty damn good too. When I saw the first one, it was Daniel Craig.
Oh, I did too. Quantum of Solace kind of
sucked.
I think it's actually Quantum of Solace is...
It's watchable.
It's watchable, but I think at the same time it might be my fifth least favorite movie.
It's the weakest definitely of the Daniel Craig movies.
Oh, by far. I think it is. If it's not in my bottom 5, it's like number 6. Like if I were to do a bottom 5 right now, I would say probably Octopussy, Diamonds Are Forever, Die Another Day, Moonraker, it might be Quantum of Solace.
I don't know, but on Her Majesty's Secret Service has never been in my. It's always been in my lower rankings. I don't know because
that one's straight in the middle for me. And the reason why is because I think the story's really good on that one, but
so
George
slow.
Lazenby, it's slow, and George Lazenby's terrible.
Yeah.
So that one is like exactly in the middle for me. But yeah, it is really slow. I think it does have a good story, but it is really story, and like the whole thing, Lazenby's like undercover as a gay guy, so they give him a freaking kilt or whatever. It's like, come on, like what is this? And he still has sex with all the girls there. It's like, okay, all right, this is getting kind of stupid. And then it's like, I know that Lazenby and Telly Savalas are not the same actors that were in the last movie. James Bond and Blofeld still met. I know they're different actors now, but we could at least act like they know who they are.
Yeah.
Like what is this? Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that one's not straight in the middle for me. Like it's got some pretty weird stuff that doesn't work.
You know, sometimes you see on TV, they still run Bond marathons. And
it's
stuff.
one of the best books,
but
it's an amazing.
But when
book.
I see on Her Majesty's Secret Service, like, well, I'll come back in 2 hours.
And I kind of do the same thing. I'm like,
One last thing, you were talking about Roadhouse is one of those movies. It's kind of like you watch it, it's not great. There's two movies that I have that I enjoy watching. They're not that great. One's called The Villain, has Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kirk Douglas. It's a Western done in like 1979.
Really?
It's a corny, stupid ass, almost Bugs Bunny type of Warner Brothers cartoonish type of movie.
Western?
It's a Western.
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the character of the handsome stranger. It's like it's once a year I have to throw it in and watch it.
Yeah.
And the other one for me is The Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan. I've never been a fan of Andrew Dice Clay. Never have been. But for some reason, that movie, it's one of those little guilty pleasures.
No.
Once in a great while, I gotta watch that movie.
I hear. Yeah. Okay.
It's got Ed O'Neill in it as a cop. Okay, fine, but it's bad. It's stupid. It's just one of those I keep watching every so often. I have to watch the movie because it's just like, ooh, I gotta watch this. I can't explain the attraction to the Adventures of Ford Fairlane because Andrew Dice Clay's comedy in itself never cared for his style or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
but for some reason that movie, I don't know. I enjoy watching that movie. That and the whole one part in there, it's a voiceover part, and he's talking about the female character in there, and he's like talking to Zuzu is like masturbating with the cheese grater, tolerable but mostly painful. I love that line in that movie.
It's a pretty funny line, actually.
But anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, we'll talk more about, we've got...
Well, I do want to say I am trying to put together a Star Wars special podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to be on it.
So I'm trying to get 2 or 3 people. So the few people who do listen to my podcast, be looking for that. It'll probably be in December.
Sure, before or after the movie.
Both.
Okay. So
because I want to talk about the original trilogy and even the prequels. I mean, you can't ignore them.
No, you can't.
You know,
can try.
I want to do that podcast before the movie. Then I want to talk about The Force Awakens after the movie. See if my theories hold up and let everyone grill me and going, oh, you were so wrong.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you were so right. Whatever the case may be. And if I'm right, I'll try not to be too smug.
Well, we'll see.
Well, thanks for listening. You can check this out on SoundCloud, ReggieTake.com, or my YouTube page, or even on my Facebook page. Thank you for listening, and talk at you later.